In the previous two videos, we discussed what can go wrong with writing survey items, and we talked about some of the guidelines when writing effective survey items. In this video, we turn to a special type of item that is very popular in survey research. This is the order scale item. Before we understand an order scale item, let's think about which one is the simplest form of a closed-ended item or a closed-ended question. And that question is the yes or no question. When the only answers are yes or no, then that is a binary response item, and that is the simplest one. But sometimes these types of items can be very hard to answer because participants are forced to choose between only two extremes, and those who are in the middle have to choose, and it's sometimes hard for them to do that. Consider this example. This is a binary response item. Are you afraid of ghosts? Yes or no? Some people that are very afraid of ghosts may answer yes. Some people that are very unafraid of ghosts probably will say no. But what about those who are a little afraid? Does that mean they are afraid or they're not afraid? Or those who are a little, less than afraid, but kind of afraid, they would have a time choosing which one, either yes or a no. So sometimes a scale can help them. If we switch the question to how afraid of ghosts are you? And they have the choice, not afraid at all, a little afraid, fairly afraid, and very afraid, then they would have an easier time choosing, and you would get a lot more information out of this one than you would get from a simple yes or no. And that is why order response items are so common in survey research. They are easier to answer. They give you more information than a binary item, and you can use them to construct scales. These are some examples of order responses or order response categories. When you want to ask for frequency, for example, you may use always, very often, fairly often, sometimes, almost never or never, or intensity, none, very mild, mild, moderate, severe, or when you're comparing something to something, so much more or somewhat more, about the same, somewhat less, or much less. Now, when you are constructing a scale, that scale should be balanced. And that means that the two extremes, the 2 points on the scale, they have to be opposite, the opposite of each other, right? Always or never. And the intervals between the points, between these 2 points, they have the same
Distance.
from whichever side you're looking from. Let me give you an example. Here on the left, you have an unbalanced item. It goes from very happy, somewhat happy, neither happy nor unhappy, or not very happy. First of all, the opposite of very happy is not very happy. Look on the right on the other side. The opposite of very happy is very unhappy. And there is 4 items in between the two opposites, right? Two response categories between the two opposites. If you look from the top, you have happy, somewhat happy, neither happy nor unhappy, and then unhappy. If you look from the bottom, you have 4 as well. So this item is balanced. A special type of order response item is the Likert item. And Rensis-Likert devised a way to construct scales using items that ask respondents about their level of agreement with a statement. So he proposed a methodology to construct scales using items that use these order response categories reflecting a level of agreement. So this strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree. That is called a Likert item. Some people refer this to as the Likert scale, but that is not correct. A Likert scale is a scale constructed with several Likert type items. So when we talked about items that have these order response categories with levels of agreement, we will refer to them as the Likert item. So when you are constructing a Likert item, make sure that you are asking one statement only that they have to agree with. Sometimes we get carried away and we put two statements they have to agree, but the scale only allows for one. And that makes it a double-barreled item, like we saw in the previous video. Consider this example. I like statistics and see how they can be applied in my field. That is two questions. One is asking for their agreement on whether they like statistics, and the other one is asking with their agreement of whether they think it's going to be applied in their field. Those are two separate questions, and the answer is agreement for only one. So this is a double-barreled item, and it's useless, as we learned in the previous video. Also, the statement should have clearly, it should indicate clearly favorable or an unfavorable position about the object. Consider this example. Suppose you find out your child's first grade instructor is gay, and the respondent is supposed to is asked their level of agreement with the phrase "I would faint" or the phrase "I will feel sad." Well, what does "I would faint" mean? Does that mean that they are in favor of the gay teacher or opposed to the gay teacher? Right? So they strongly disagree whether they faint or not. That um, doesn't really tell you anything about their agreement or disagreement, or whether they oppose or favor the statement. Or I feel sad. Feeling sad doesn't mean that they agree or disagree with, or that they favor or not favor their first grade instructor is gay or not. So the statement has to be a statement that clearly indicates a favorable or has a favorable or an unfavorable position. Now, sometimes the Likert item includes the category neutral. You should include the neutral category only in some cases, because respondents who choose a neutral may be those who A, are really neutral about the issue, B, they don't know about the issue, or three, don't really want to state their full position on it. You can also add a don't know category to the item. In that case, you are separating respondents who actually don't know anything about the issue from those who are truly feeling neutral about the statement. But the don't know option should be separate from the response, the order response scale in your questionnaire. Now, you can use Likert items for hypothetical situations to measure some attitudes. However, hypothetical situations to measure attitudes has its drawbacks because you're not really measuring attitudes about a real situation. You don't know how people would actually react when that happens. For example, if you ask, suppose you discover your partner is cheating on you, and you would, ask them to agree with the statement of "I would forgive him or her." That's an artificial, hypothetical situation. We don't know how the respondents would actually use, or how they would actually behave. Now, when you have several Likert items, you can group them in a matrix. And this is the nice thing about these items that have the same scale. You can group them into a matrix type, and you save a lot of room. You can you can mask 20 questions into one box, like in this example, right? There's 3 questions under one number, under question 17. So that is something to consider. That's one very important positive characteristics of ordered response items, that they can be put in matrices. Now, one thing you should not do with response items, or order response items, is combine scales, right? Either use the whole Likert scale or use a numerical scale, but do not combine them. In this example, we're asking respondents to fill a numerical scale that has strongly agree on one side and strongly disagree on the other, and has 10 numbers in between. Why not just ask the Likert scale here, right? Why put the numbers in between? When you put the numbers in between, they are very, very hard to interpret later. Like, for example, if the average for all respondents is a 3, what does that mean? Does that mean that they disagree? Does that mean that they're neutral? See, that has absolutely no meaning. Do not combine numerical scales with Likert items. Numerical scales are fine. If you want to ask people about, when you go to the emergency room, they'll ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1, no pain at all, and 10, unbearable pain, what is your level of pain at this time? That is a numerical scale. That is fine. But do not combine Likert with numerical scales, because the numbers that you get, you're not going to be able to interpret them. Finally, the nice thing about order response items is that they don't need to be words at all. You can have smiley faces, like the example below. If you're surveying children, for example, how do you feel when there's broccoli for dinner? And you can have a scale there going from a very happy face to a very sad face. And that would be an appropriate item. These are some tips for writing Likert items, and why order response items are so popular in survey design. I will see you in the next video.